everyone.
Hey, everybody.
How's everybody
Good
doing?
evening. Good evening. Good evening.
Good to see y'all.
Well, good to see you. Hope you're having a great evening. Hope you had a good week, prosperous
Yes.
week, and advancing week. And I know it was a challenging week for many of us, but we're here.
We are here.
We are here on point, ready.
Yes.
Ready for life, ready
Praise
for
the Lord.
everything that life has for us and what God has in store for us. So we are excited, man. It is great. We are here. We're a new relationship coaching. I'm Rodney Bennett.
I'm Thalana Bennett.
And man, we're excited. We're excited. We know that we can see where these videos are, if they're helping people. People are receiving these little Friday night talk. We just really decided that we would do maybe 4 of them, and so this is the third episode or segment or installment or whatever you want to call it. This is the third part.
Yes.
So we're going to come on tonight. We're excited. We're sharing some nuggets and different things that we've experienced and things that we've learned, and just things that we feel like will be valuable to different people who are dating, who are some maybe going through or having gone through a divorce or having gone through a bad breakup, and just some things, having gone through divorce, both of us individually, ourselves in our own lives separately before we met each other. We just learned some things. There was just some things that were deposited in us after it was all over. And these things we have learned somehow are valuable to people. so we're excited.
Yeah. And so welcome. Let us know where you're watching from, even if you are on the replay.
Mm-hmm.
We love to connect with you, and there are several ways that you can connect with us. But even tonight, if you are interested and just wanted to have some questions or anything like that, we have a way that you can just DM us if you're watching on Facebook, or send us a direct message on Instagram, or you can email us at info@anewrelationshipcoaching.com, and we will definitely get back to you. But we're excited to be here. We're excited to share some nuggets with you guys.
Yeah.
And just talk tonight. And so tonight we are talking. Our topic tonight, as my husband said, that this is our third video in a 4-part series that we have done on several topics. Our last topic we talked about was boundaries, and we're picking up on that as we talk about from the lens of divorced, right? Or going through a breakup, and now you're here and you find yourself in a place, where you didn't think that you would be, and even recognizing some of the trauma that comes from divorce or breakup. And is it trauma that I'm dealing with? Is it or not? Is it trauma that is in me? Is it trauma in someone else that I'm dealing with? Or is it or not? And so tonight we're going to dive into some of those things. Key one is identifying really and defining what is trauma. And so
like, what is it, first of all, because you hear it so often, you hear it all different kinds of places and all different kinds of settings. And sometimes I think we kind of we may use it or see it and really don't know exactly what it means. But relationship trauma, it occurs when a person experiences significant emotional, physical, or sexual abuse within an intimate relationship. And that is emotional trauma. And it's so interesting, because I think that for men, we shy away from even in any way acknowledging any kind of trauma, any kind of pain, any kind of wounds that we may have suffered as a result of being in a relationship. Guess what? Abusers, they don't respect they're equal opportunity employer. Abusers, it can come in the form, it can be in a woman, it could be in a man, it could be in a young person, it could, that they can pick up those abusive characteristics, and then you find yourself in the crosshairs of that abusive thing that's in them. And it may be coming out of a man towards a woman. It may be coming out of a woman towards a man. So, we want to try to help men to kind of accept the fact that this has happened to us too. It doesn't make us less of a man. It doesn't make us, any of those things. It just makes us human.
Yeah.
And so it's okay, men, brothers, if you're watching, it's okay to accept the fact that, you know what, you got hurt, man. You got some deep hurt from either a marriage or a relationship that didn't work out or whatever, and you walked away, man, with some wounds.
Yeah.
It's okay to acknowledge that, because it's reality. It happens, and it doesn't make you any less of a human being to accept and acknowledge that.
Yeah, I think, what is so hard about relationship trauma, like, dealing with a divorce or a breakup is, one, you don't go into it expecting that this is going to end. And if there's a betrayal of trust in any way, that takes, because this is one of the most intimate relationships, when we're in a relationship of marriage, this is the most intimate of relationships
Mm-hmm.
that any two human beings can enter.
Yeah.
And so when it ends, it's a betrayal. It can feel like, just wiping you off of your feet. And so we understand that, especially if it happened because of a lack of trust some way, and there was no way to reconcile or get back into alignment, which lines up with what we talked about in our last talk about that consistent pattern of boundaries being not respected.
Mm-hmm.
And here you find yourself where, even if I wanted to trust again, how do I trust again? And can I trust again? And if two people aren't willing to work with, in that, then you do find yourself in this place where we have to, well, we don't have to, but it lends to the fact that it can be one of the key factors of a divorce,
yeah,
or a breakup. And so now you're left with pieces of, this is where I was supposed to feel the most trusting place in my life,
yeah.
with someone. And what do I do with that? How can I trust someone else? And so that can be one of the key ways that, trauma can, come in, if that has happened to you. And again, we're not saying that you have to have a, a response that deepens. Everybody's level of their trauma is their personal level, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like what affects you may not affect me,
Mm-hmm.
That way. But when we come into that situation where our boundaries, our capacity to really cope with, what has happened to us, then that's where we have to identify, okay, this is an area I have to look at, if we can even see, right?
Yeah.
That we are hurting in this area. That's one way that we know we have some trauma. Some of us may not even see it right away.
I mean, I can remember, going through divorce and, just having, I don't want to say ego, but I'll just say my maleness. You know what I mean?
Well,
my maleness.
They say men are more egotistical than women. They say
and there's
that.
probably some truth to that.
Yeah.
But I think that, without the pride, because when I hear ego, I hear pride. But without the pride and all that egotistical stuff, there's just a part of us men that, there is a toughness that have become accustomed to, exposed to, and we just have most of us, we just have this thing where, we can deal with it.
Yeah.
And the issue is, a lot of times we force ourselves into that mode in seasons or events that we can't deal with.
Yeah.
We have a hard time coping with. Even we can't control it. It hurt us. We're having issues handling it and handling the rest of life. And so, I can remember, it kind of starts out okay. You're handling it, and you're, even before it becomes final, you accept the reality of what, the other person, how they have, responded it or accepted it or even initiated it. And you get to the point where, okay, this is the way it's going. This is the way it's going to happen. And, as a man, you approach that place as, okay, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. Yeah. But then when it becomes reality, and then you start walking into the reality, in your own soul, in your own emotions, in your own head, you realize that there are some leftover things here. There's some pain here. There's some, issues, some words. A lot of times there's some words that were said, and I'm having a hard time getting past it.
And I think the key there is when you are dealing with relational trauma, many times it can come out in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the key ways is it's hard to express.
Yeah.
Right? That this hurts, because I don't want to feel this.
Yeah.
I don't want to feel this pain. I don't want to, and if women, have pride too,
mm-hmm.
like, especially if you're a strong, independent woman and you found that being in this relationship and after this relationship, you felt like your power was gone, or like, you were trying to make the relationship work, but you felt like some of the things of standing up for yourself, or, being confident in who you are. And, especially if that was one way before the relationship, but you have to get yourself back to that place. It's hard to recognize. It's hard to say, you know what, I'm having a difficult time getting over this. This really hurts. I don't want to talk about it. I don't, I just want to move on. I don't want to deal with or bringing that up. And sometimes it's easier just to go forward with something new.
Yeah.
But what the problem is, going forward with something new, that thing is still in you.
Yeah.
All that hurt, all that pain, all that those words, or the abuse, or whatever you were going through, or just sometimes it depends on what it is that's really hard. And then sometimes we can paint the picture of what our next is supposed to be based off of what I will never ever deal with. I will never deal. When we start saying I'll never deal with this, or I won't put up with this, I'm not going to. And there's certain things, yes, we have to have some boundaries.
Sure.
But when we get to the place where we can identify what's good, because we've only experienced what is bad.
Yeah.
And we have to deal with some trauma, and we have a hard time talking about that.
Yeah.
Then that is an issue.
Mm-hmm.
That is where we become isolated. We become lone rangers. We become nobody wants to talk. Our first talk, accountability. Nobody can tell us nothing. Or we just want to have the control.
Yeah. And it's interesting. And let's talk about some key characteristics of relationship trauma.
Yeah.
Because there are some, it leaves clues.
Yeah.
It leaves clues. One of the characteristics of relationship trauma is betrayal of trust.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Foundation of relationship is trust. So, we always kind of say, or not always, but many times even in the dating process, people will be honest enough to say, yeah, I have trust issues.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that that's a red flag.
Yeah.
But it is something to kind of keep in the back of your mind. Because you can have trust issues for the next 10 years. I mean, I'm saying you can't, because that's something that has to be worked through. Because if I'm trustworthy, but the last person was not, and then I step into the scene, are you at a point to where you can differentiate between someone who's trustworthy and someone who's not? The trauma will tell you that the new person is just like the old person.
Yeah.
And you can't tell. With in wars and post-traumatic stress disorder, we often see that form of trauma. And when people have been traumatized, that are some of our heroes and our war heroes and have been to the military, when they may hear a loud sound like a boom or a gun like that, and at that time that trauma and that syndrome becomes so deep that they flash back and they can't tell the difference now between being in a war and being sitting in a lawn chair watching a parade go by. And so that's one of the characteristics, that's part of trauma. You can't tell the difference. And so, if you're in a relationship and this person struggles with being able to tell the difference between you and the last person who hurt them or wounded them, they have this betrayal of trust. They can't, this struggle. And the reality is, if that's you, and I struggle with trust, it may be best that before you get really deeply involved with someone, you try to get a handle on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and I think it's a process, number one, and which is one of the key ways, like, you have to really, when we coach people about, especially after divorce or, really, mainly divorce, we tell people, take your time, because I know for me, when we got, I went through my counseling and everything, but there was something about when we finally got married again, and there were certain issues that would come up, that my response wasn't my response based on him and the man he was. My response was based on a place of where I came out of, that I said, this is not going to happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm responding and I'm acting as if I'm in the place of what I just came out of.
Yeah.
Now, I tried to do my due diligence. And of course, you don't even really know some of those things are in there. But because I knew enough and got comfortable enough with talking about, what? I know this ain't right, or going to therapy, getting some help, having some accountability to walk through those issues. When it happened, and even when you would bring some things up to me, I was okay. It didn't paralyze me to not speak about it and to say, I don't have to stay in that place. I don't have to stay and keep. It's a decision for me to, am I going to allow this trauma to dictate my new marriage? Or am I going to put this under me and behind me? And I have somebody who's willing to work through it with me. I have somebody here who's trustworthy. And so I think that's really important to know, that especially if you had betrayal of trust or any, deep-seated thing, that is a process, but you got to be committed to the process to want to work through it.
Yeah, I agree. It just has to happen that way. And how about the next one? You want to?
Well, I kind of already talked about this, about, that could be a sign. One of the characteristics of relationship trauma is having that power imbalance.
Yeah.
Where you have to have the control. This is not going to happen unless it's like this self-preservation. Like, I'm only going to do this, or this is only going to happen if this is the way it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And how can that be a healthy relationship?
It cannot.
How can you be together with somebody because it's a reciprocal? Our relationships are reciprocal, and really healthy relationships is the focus doesn't have to be on me. The focus really should be on, where is he? Where is my partner? It should be on us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not just what I want, and not that this can only happen or go down if I'm in control.
Yeah.
So that could be a key sign, if you just have to have
control,
all the control.
Yeah.
This is the way we're going to do it, and that's it. Right. Or that's it.
That's this ultimatum. It has to be this way or no way, or the highway.
Or the highway.
But I think, I think that, because I think that, sometimes when we've gone through that kind of trauma, in a past relationship, or or you were married before and God forbid it didn't work out, I think we come out of that being able to identify how the abuser controlled us, and then wanting to get out in front of that and to say that ain't going to happen again. So the only way I can ensure that that's not going to happen is I control it now.
You become what you didn't want to deal with,
and you become now the person who is handing out the trauma. You're handing out, because you didn't get healed from the trauma, so now you become one now who's traumatizing, because you feel like that's the only safe way, but but I think that you can just take your time and get to know a person, and if you because we've designed this talk to kind of be like, you may see these characteristics in you, or you may see them, be able to identify them in the person that you may be dating, or you may be engaged, or whatever the case is. But if you're just dating and you see some of these signs, you want to vocalize it. You don't want to be afraid. Don't act like, because that's how we get sometimes. We find somebody and, all of a sudden you feel butterflies, and the birds are singing and the clouds is lined up and everything.
Everything's perfect.
Everything is wonderful except for the abuse.
Yeah.
But what we do is we minimize that because of this feelings and this emotions that we're feeling in our heart. And then we just look at the positive, well, look at this, they got a good job, or they are good, they've always taken care of their children and all these different things. But that doesn't make the trauma all right. That doesn't make the abuse all right. Not to say that, they used to say don't throw out the baby with the bathwater, but at the same time, just because you got some other things that are lined up and right, that doesn't mean I'm going to ignore the red flag. I want to talk to you about it. I want to have some conversation. I'm not, because if you get into the mode of, I'm not going to address it, I'm not going to see it during the dating pattern, well, that's what you're going to do, and that's what they're going to expect you to do once you get married. And then you got a whole different kind of problem, because now you're married, you stepped into the covenant, and the covenant is till death do you part. But because it was okay when you were dating, now how you going to say it's not okay that we're married?
Well, I'm going to be, sometimes you don't know, like you just, the lack of knowledge and understanding, because sometimes, especially I think for women, we can sometimes have the motherly, compassionate, oh, well, they're having a bad day, or, I understand that nobody's going to be perfect, or, and we can take that approach. The problem comes in when we have now accepted that's just the way they are. Even if we've already expressed ourselves, like, that hurts me. That doesn't feel good. Please don't do that. Or, we have to work on this. But it's a pattern. And that's one of the things of the definition in trauma. You've experienced this pattern over and over and over and over and over, that it becomes traumatic. Right. But sometimes as women, in the beginning, you tend to look over that, because and again, I think that's one of the other signs of trauma, especially because then you don't want to go to the side of being hyper vigilant, like one bad thing,
looking for everything,
right? It's like, oh no, right? But that's a sign that you were in something that really, or you've experienced something, or this needs to be dealt with in a healthy way so that I can move on from this. Because again, your partner may have a bad day. The person you with, in the next relationship, or even if you're dating, could just be having a bad day. Now, I'm not talking about, extreme abuse, but sometimes we can become so hyper vigilant that we lose focus.
And then if you're not careful, you'll find what you're looking for, even if it's not there.
Come on, what I mean? Say that again. That's good.
You'll convince yourself that that's the reality, that thing is there, even when it's not.
And and the person's trying their best to make you feel comfortable that they're not really doing what you think that they're doing. And they're now living in like, oh my gosh, like I can't move. I can't say this. I can't do this. I can't do that. Right.
Which is so unfair.
Right? Because of some of the things that are inside of you.
And I think that, another characteristic of relationship trauma is isolation. Victims of relationship trauma often isolate themselves from their friends and their family, and maybe their church or their neighbors and so forth, which does what? It makes it super difficult for you to find help. Because you're ashamed, you have all these other emotions, you feel disappointed or defeated and all these different things, and you start isolating. When you start isolating, just know you're going down the wrong road.
Yeah.
You're going down the wrong road. If you all of a sudden, you don't want to be around any your friends and or your family that you used to love to be around, and all of a sudden, you just want to be by yourself most of the time, that is an indication that there is some relationship trauma that has happened in the past. Because isolating and being by yourself all the time, it's not good. You ought to be able to be comfortable being alone at some point, even after you're married. You shouldn't feel like you're going to self-destruct if you know what I'm saying, if you're by yourself. But on the other hand, if you feel this sense of shame or the sense of, I don't want people to know, or you're trying to hide and cover up things, that's not good. And an abuser will prey on those kind of situations. In fact, they'll sometimes attempt and they'll make an effort to isolate you so that your
only contact,
you're their only contact, and you've cut off everybody. So when things get ugly, you don't even feel comfortable now going back to the bridges that you burned. And the abusive person will have the match and the gasoline for you to burn that bridge. So just know that isolation sometimes can be a characteristic of relationship trauma.
Yeah, and I think that ties in very key to our first talk about points of accountability. But really, accountability is just nothing more than your circle. Like, you got a group, you got a posse that can help you. You know what I mean? Like, let's not make no mistake. Divorce is traumatic, and even a breakup, like, depending on where you are, it's traumatic. It can be difficult.
Yeah.
It can be very difficult. And just isolating yourself, and not having people to be able to walk with you, because there is help out there. You never have to do it alone.
Yeah, and like you say, just knowing that there's nothing wrong with having relationship coaches or having a therapist or count. There's nothing wrong with that. I think sometimes, just thinking about sometimes with men, I think you call it saving face, or you don't want to appear weak, and you may, before the breakup or before things go sour, we men have a tendency to say, I'm going to be all right. You know what I'm saying? Or I don't need you. Or all these different things we're saying. So now we convince ourselves that we're good.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'm just going left, they're going right. Ain't no problems. But the reality is that's not the way it works. That's not the way the heart. God didn't make us to be able to function like robots. That's why you want to be cautious about who you open your heart up to, because the reality is once you open your heart and your soul and your emotions and you allow that person access, it's not as easy to now just move them back out of the door of the access to your heart. It doesn't work that way, because that's not the way God designed the covenant of marriage. And it's made to be permanent. So when we want to kind of tear it apart and disconnect it, it's not an easy road to go down, because we've gotten emotionally attached, physically attached, financially attached, socially, all these attachments that are supposed to be in the covenant, but the issue is they were supposed to be permanent.
They were supposed to be
permanent. Know what I'm saying? And so now it can become a challenge.
Yeah. And I think we're going to go on, like we're talking about some of the signs. We're just going to list a couple more of these signs that you may, again, everybody who goes through a divorce or breakup does not experience it to this, level. We're talking about trauma here, but changes in your behavior, like your increased irritability, or just aggressive or withdrawal, like that isolation. If like we talked about, your normal everyday routine, your normal, like, people are starting to say, hey, what's up with you? What's going on? Or you don't even know, that could be a sign you're dealing, with some things. You need to go get some, help.
Yeah. And, like you say, reliving the past, reliving those past experiences, you had an experience, maybe it became verbally abusive or physically abusive or however you want to say, and it happened, but now you can't turn it off. It's replaying itself over and over. And each time it does, it's causing you more pain. each time it does, it's calling you more regret and feelings of, anger or bitterness or frustration or abandonment and all those different things. So that's one. And then hypervigilant, you touched on that, like, you're just a crime stopper. I mean, you're gonna get to the bottom of this situation, and you checking stuff, you checking phones, and why don't you unlock your code? Why's your phone got to be locked? All these different things. And I'm not pro or anti-lock on phone. What I'm saying. But I think sometimes some people can get on the hypervigilant side.
Yeah, you are now in some other relationship, and everything now that you said that you weren't going to do, like, this other person did they prove any reason why they can't be trusted?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that could be part of it. I think also I like this last, like, avoidance of certain areas or people or things because it triggers things. And I do believe you have to balance that out. I do, because it's a process. And this is why it's important to be honest with yourself, and you kind of deal with the pain there and say, you know what, I'm not ready to go there.
Yeah.
I'm not ready to visit that. I'm not, sometimes music, I'm not ready to listen. That's going to, and I think that is a safe place when you're there. However, if it's something like, where it's really like you're in something else, or you've moved on and it's years and you're very, like, adamant, or even can get aggressive around the fact, like, I cannot do that, or it really triggers a very emotional response, that is a time, you could be avoiding something and you're not really dealing with what is the root of that.
And I think, I mean, I know for me, after I became divorced, one of the things that I avoided was the movies.
Yeah.
Because it just reminded me, what I'm saying, of the past and so forth. And I realized initially that I'm not doing that. I mean, but then some good movies started coming out. I said, well, hold on a minute. Wait a minute.
You can go.
Yeah, like, okay, we're going to have to get over this thing. We're going to have to get healed of this. And then, sure enough, I decided that I wasn't going to stay in that place. And I started being comfortable going to the movies by myself. I had some of the greatest times at the movies, just me and me, and so, but, those are, these are some of the things that, you will find out, and it'll sneak up on you. You may not find out until you actually come in contact or proximity to that place or to that situation, and you realize, wow, I can't stop thinking about this or that or the other, so I'm going to avoid it. And it's okay to acknowledge that I'm not ready. Just like you said, I'm not ready right now. But you start making a journey and inroads toward, overcoming that, and you can. You can.
Like, I remember for me, I would be so happy when it would be the kids' turn to go visit their dad, and I'd be like, oh, the weekend, they're here. But you know what? When they left, it would be, now I'm dealing with the fact that I'm by myself. You know what I mean? I got married. My first marriage, I was young.
Yeah.
I never was by myself. And it was traumatic, and I had to deal with the fact that I'm here by myself, and I would be for the first, I don't even know, probably the first half of the year when I was divorced. Every weekend they would go over there. I'd be sitting up here crying, and not understanding, because I needed a break. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I realized, I need to deal with this, you know what I mean? And I'm just crying uncontrollably, or I won't, I felt like I didn't have anything to do or anybody, or, just those change, I needed to make sure I could be okay, with me, which is, a result of, divorce, especially if you were married for a long time, or most of your adult life you were in a relationship,
and your expectation and entering it, and as time went on, that it was going to never dissolve. It never was going to be over. You know what I mean? And so, but we're going to get ready to end here. We're on our time, but one thing we want to say is that we talk about our coaching service, or a new relationship coaching, but we want to remind you that we are ANew.
Yeah.
That this is
We
who
are
we
new.
are.
Yes.
And when I say that, I mean that many of the techniques and the things, particularly when the course we put together, many of those things have worked for us.
Yeah.
As we went through trauma, as we went through developing accountability and all these different things, what I'm saying, we learned and we understood that these were lessons and these things worked.
Yeah.
They worked. And so, that's why we're not just doing it. We're doing this because we're passionate about it, because we want to help people to deal with these different things and to move on with their life if it's time to move on. If it's time to move on, to how to heal and how to grow and how to go on to be whole again, man. And we understand, another thing for us was that when we went through it, there wasn't a whole lot of resources. There wasn't especially some of the stuff we're talking about. There was a few resources and they touched on some things, but as far as going in depth and talking about the mechanics and giving examples and life, and life examples, we didn't find all that. So we're being to you what we didn't have when we went through, and that's how we know it's important. We know that it will help you, and it's already helping you because it is what we know we needed when we were in that place.
And this is just good tie into that, our program that we launching August 19th really takes you through what we call the ultimate relationship recovery system, because it takes you through 4 ways that you can get back on your feet, really, no matter where you are. If you're just newly out of it, if you're looking to go, you're pretty okay, or if you're like, I'm ready to move on, or, whatever, this is a perfect opportunity. So we will be hosting that, and we have a short video for you just so that you can get some more information. Hey, we're ANew relationship coaching, and we help people who have gone through a breakup or a divorce recover, heal, and move forward. And on August 19th, we're launching a group coaching course that teaches you our ultimate relationship recovery system.
And we are so excited about this course, man. We have worked on it for about 1.5 years now. It's going to be packed with so much knowledge, information, lessons, wisdom that you're going to gain. So this is really, really going to be an amazing, amazing opportunity. So listen, you don't want to miss this. It's going to be on August 19th. Don't delay. Do it today.
Yes, so do it today. And how can you do it? You can go right to bennettfactor.solutions, and you will be able to sign up there. That's our website, bennettfactor.solutions, and learn more about it. Again, even if you want to DM us, message us, you can do that. We have different people who are, signing up, trying to learn more about it. But it's a great way, because you can understand that, this is a process and it's proven it works. And you don't have to stay in that place. But you know what? Like we talked about in our first talk, having some good coaches behind you who kind of navigated these waters and have come out on the other side. That's our passion, and we want to help you. And so go ahead and check that out. You can also follow us on our Facebook pages at ANew Relationship Coaching, Instagram, ANew.relationship, our YouTube. By the way, we are, kind of growing our YouTube channel. So go to ANew Relationships on YouTube and subscribe, because we put these talks back up, the whole thing, and we also put some snippets up there. So go ahead and do that. So there's plenty of ways you can. TikTok, we're on TikTok. But we're under Bennett Factor on TikTok. Threads. We're on Threads.
I always say streams. We're on Threads. We're out there. We're on Twitter. We got some activity going on Twitter. We're everywhere. We're all over the place.
Yeah, we're everywhere.
And so you can find us, man.
Okay. Well, I think that's it for tonight. And again, we just tipped the surface of this. But hopefully, one thing we just want you to leave with is that you can heal, you can grow, you can become ANew. No matter what you're facing, we always like to leave with some hope. There is hope for you after divorce or breakup, and be encouraged. All right. Have a great night, everyone.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.